Welcome to another episode of Philosophics, Flexing the Power of Mind. Our new topic for today is none other than the nature of knowledge. Now, there are three stages in the apprehension of concepts for knowledge to be possible. We have perception, abstraction, and judgment. The first stage is perception. Now, it involves the activity that does not make us different from animals. There are two types of perception, external and internal. External perception happens when we perceive things using our senses. The result of the process of external perception is called perception. Internal perception happens when you use your imagination and memory. Now, from these percepts, you could close your eyes and use your imagination and memory to recreate the percept into what we call image or phantasm. Therefore, the result of internal perception is no other than image or what we call phantasm. Apprehension is the second stage that distinguishes us from the animals. According to Charles Coppens, S.J., this is what we call simple apprehension or conception. Now, simple apprehension is the act of perceiving the object intellectually without affirming or denying anything concerning it. To apprehend is to take hold of the thing as if with a hand. An apprehension as an act of mind is an intellectual grasping of an object. The result of this process are what we call concepts. Now, from the percepts and images, you were able to arrive at the concepts using your intellect. Thus, it is the mind or the intellect that is responsible for the formation of concepts. Concepts therefore exist in the mind. Concepts are said to be building blocks of knowledge. According to Acuna, concepts could either be value or precise, sufficient or insufficient, but they are neither true or false. Thus, concepts have no truth value because you have not made any claim regarding your concept. When words express concepts, they are technically called terms. The last process or stage is what we call judgment. This process is called judgment, and the result of this process is a statement or proposition. It completes the act of the mind for knowledge to become possible. Now think of this. If concepts are considered the building blocks of knowledge, therefore we need the statements to cement them together in order to build a house. In this case, to construct an argument. This reflects the process of reasoning. From this stage onwards, the accumulation of knowledge and information and construction of arguments are now possible. Now, our knowledge of basic English, of the English language, would allow us to determine different kinds of sentences or statements. We have declarative, interrogative, imperative, expletive, and exclamatory. We claim that sentences have no truth value because they are merely uttered as the verbal means of communicating or expressing commands, questions, emotions like surprise or pleasure and wishes. But we claim that it is the statement expressed through a declarative sentence that has the element of truth or falsehood, since there is a knowledge claim being made in a statement. Now, on David Hume's skeptical doubts concerning the operations of understanding, he provided us two types of statements. First one is analytic statement. The truth or falsity of the knowledge claim being made by an analytic statement could be found within the statement itself. For example, a bachelor is an unmarried man of marriageable age. Now, this statement, if we are to analyze it, is an example of tautologous statement, a tautology, so to speak. That is, the predicate could be seen as being contained in the subject already. It also means that you have not given additional information that is contingent or is dependent on the state of affairs of the world, aside from what is being used and accepted as definition. The denial of an analytic statement would lead to absurdity and contradiction. It would be absurd for us to deny that the sum of 2 and 3 is 5. Therefore, analytic statements are also known or identified as statements of truths of language, truths of reason, the ease of identity, a priori, matters of logic, or formal statements. Second, we have empirical statement. Here, the knowledge claim is not dependent on tautologous statements. Rather, the truth or falsity of empirical statements depend on their correspondence with facts or with the current state of affairs being claimed. They differ from analytic statements because their truth or falsity are contingent on the state of affairs being claimed. Here, the knowledge claim is not dependent on tautologous statements. Rather, the truth or falsity of empirical statements depend on their correspondence with facts or with the current state of affairs being claimed. Now, the denial of an empirical statement would not lead to absurdity or contradiction. You will not be able to discover the truth of the statement by a mere analysis of the key terms contained therein. One has to go outside of the statement and to look and see whether the state of affairs being claimed actually corresponds with the empirical world. Empirical statements, therefore, are also known as truths of fact, synthetic, matters of fact, or a posteriori statements. Now, arising from these two types of statements, there are two types of knowledge. One is the formal knowledge. This knowledge corresponds in the formal sciences, whose main concern is the validation of knowledge claims within the formal system and their respective disciplines. Therefore, we can say that a mathematical calculation can be done precisely without having to rely on actual empirical evidence or data. The second is what we call empirical knowledge. It is a general term used to describe the different disciplines in the empirical sciences, ranging from hard sciences to soft sciences. Empirical knowledge also takes emphasis and makes use of data or the content from experience and its correspondence with the state of affairs to establish the truth or falsity of their knowledge claims from these empirical sciences. Thus, the empirical sciences give information about what the world is. Therefore, we say that empirical knowledge is working within the assumption that it is always probable that experience will prove you later on. Because instead of looking for contradictions or inconsistencies in logic, the empirical sciences deal more with the probabilities using the framework of inductive induction. Now, these probabilities are results of data from what we call experience. Therefore, the truthfulness of their statements depends on the correspondence with the state of affairs. They use the method of induction, and in this method, the grounds or premises support conclusions only with probability and not with what we call logical certainty. Because we have to say and we have to think that empirical sciences are not governed by a formal system or structure for the validity of their knowledge claims, because they are concerned with the process of verification from experience to establish whether or not the hypothesis is confirmed by as many instances as possible using data coming from experience. Now, to summarize, The two general classifications of knowledge in the sciences belong to two different paradigms. Empirical knowledge gives emphasis on the criterion of verification. So in the theories of knowledge, we will understand why the empirical knowledge will rely on correspondence theory. And while the formal knowledge that gives emphasis on validity, they rely more on the coherence theory. That is, that they cohere within the system being employed. So that's all for this session, and here are the references that I used and I consulted for this session. Thank you, and God bless us all.